did I think I would have the confidence to do such a thing? I mean, when I started TikTok and Instagram this year, I didn't even know who I was. I was like, where has this confidence come from? I was like, hey, I'll take it. As my dad said, my name is Zaria Gikonyo. I usually just go by Zaria, so I'm 22, and I'm currently doing my final semester of law school. Now you can see the smile on my face saying that. But unfortunately, we're not here to talk about law school. Because a couple of years ago, if you told me I would end up in that law school, I would never believe you. Today, rather, I would like you to relive a journey with me that molded me into the person that I am today. I'm a recovering addict. Truthfully, when I left the house today, I didn't think I would be saying that, but we're going to go with the flow. So I'm a recovering addict. And when people hear addict, you start thinking, oh, cocaine or alcohol, like who are her parents? But for me, it was a bit different. I was addicted to prescription pills. It didn't make sense to me. I mean, it was back in 2016, 2017. I was barely 18. It didn't make sense to me because I thought that the doctors who had prescribed this medicine wouldn't do anything that would harm me. They've prescribed it because it's going to help me, not something that will affect me long term. I had so much confidence in them, but sadly I was disappointed. And to top it all off, pharmacies fed my addiction. I would go to a pharmacy. I probably went to the prescription once or twice. These are controlled substances. After that, I didn't need a prescription. I would go and they're like the usual. I'm like, yep. And the thing is, it wasn't expensive. I remember one day, and this is when I realized I had a problem. Now, one thing about addicts, we'll say and do anything to get our fix. They say addicts and lawyers are the biggest liars. I'm not yet a lawyer. I am an addict. But that's all I'm gonna say. So I go to this pharmacy, and it was like I was watching myself on TV. And I put that 500 bob down. They already knew what I was there for. And they give me a box of Tramadol. This is Tramadol and paracetamol. This was my poison. This is how I lived my life. This is how I got high. And I was okay living my life like this. So I put the 500 bob on the counter. And in my head, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? But the addiction side won. I paid, I got my 100 bob change, I bought ice cream, and I got in the car. I couldn't reach home. I had to take it. A couple of days went by, and I just wasn't feeling like myself. I remember I went to shower, and I looked up at the shower head. And to me, this was rational. So I asked myself, what are the chances that if I hung from this shower head, it would hold me? So I start crying, and I'm crying in the shower. Obviously, I'm still testing the shower head. Then I'm like, okay, this is impossible. It's not gonna work. But when I snap out of it, I work up the courage, because mom was at home, to go and tell my mom that I think there's a problem. And that's where my serious journey began. I went to see a psychiatrist. At first, I was in denial. I couldn't believe it. And one thing that shocked me was that I had to go to rehab. I didn't get it. I mean, I grew up seeing family members going to rehab, but it was for alcohol. So I was like, what am I going to do in rehab? So I was like, no, I can do it by myself. So he gave me a plan. He gave Mom a plan. When we got home, Mom took all my medicine. So when she took this medicine, if I needed something, I would have to go to her first. But like I said, addicts are the biggest liars. So I came up with a few schemes. I would lie to her and say, okay, let's not start tonight, let's start in the morning. Or let's start like this, and then let's do every other day. I found out her hiding spots, but because I'm bad at keeping secrets, I told her I found out her hiding spots, so she just found other ones. And when I went back for a review, the doctor said, clearly you can't do it on your own, so you need to go into treatment. So I looked at him, Mom looked at him, we looked at each other, and she was like, yeah, I think it's a good idea. I couldn't believe it. She was ready for me to go. So I get home, she's ready to pack my bag, so I'm like, no, I'm not ready. So I come up with many excuses, and it went on for 3 weeks. Then there's something parents always say. They sat me down and told me, Zaria, if you want help, the help is there. So I was like, now I have to go. So I went into rehab, time of my life. I met amazing people, and it was the best decision of my life. This was towards the end of 2017. Now let's jump on over to January of 2018. It was a bright, sunny Saturday morning. And I was happy I had an appointment, but I was really happy that day. So when I get into the clinic and the doctor sees me, he looks at me and he's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I feel so good. I'm having such a good day. And he's like, Zaria, can I admit you? So I was like, huh, why? So he looks at my mom and my dad. He's like, we are dealing with bipolar. So they were scared. But me, because I was already happy, I was like, okay. And then they started asking, what's bipolar? So he explained. So let me explain it to you the way he explained it. He drew a straight line. He drew another straight line. Then he drew some waves. The pattern was very consistent. That's the mood of a normal person. Now, the bipolar mind is the extreme. That day, it was an extreme day for me. I was living my best life. What he didn't tell me was the depression that was going to follow me. But that's how I started learning about bipolar. Through my own experience, through Dr. Google. And one thing that I struggled with was when the doctor told me that you have to be on treatment. I was like, okay, cool, for how long? And he told me the rest of your life. That's when it hit me. I didn't understand. I was like, what do you mean the rest of my life? And I've always thought of myself as being able to get through anything. So I was like, okay, yeah, maybe for other people it's the rest of their lives. But for me, I'll stop. People have holidays, that's what they're called, when you stop taking the medicine for a while. Unfortunately, I've not had a holiday, but I'm hoping to have one soon. And I understand why I haven't had it, because I was lying to myself. I was not okay. I had not accepted this diagnosis. I didn't fully understand this diagnosis. But now, I know when a hypomanic episode is coming. I have bipolar too, so my extremes are not that bad. So I get hypomanic. It doesn't make sense, but I can feel it when it's coming. And after a hypomanic episode, I'm usually seated waiting for my depression. But I realized I need to stop thinking like that, because it can't be a cycle. I have to break this cycle. If I deal with a high episode, I'm going to make sure that I don't sink. The worst depressive episode I had, I didn't go to school, I wasn't eating, I wasn't showering, I hated everyone, my curtains were always closed. People would come to my room and it would be like walking into a dungeon because I was nasty. I was horrible. I was rude. Everything you could think of, that was me. But one thing I say, people deal with depressive episodes different ways. Mine, it might not be so healthy, but I shut down and I tell everyone, give me time, I'll be okay. Now, bipolar for me is one of the illnesses that I got a hold on fast. I know you hear illnesses and you're thinking, oh, how many does she have? And I was joking with my doctor, I was like, I feel like I go home with a new mental illness every day. But I thought to myself, why is there so much stigma when you say you have more than one mental illness? But if it's a physical illness, let's say like diabetes, you can have high blood pressure with it, you can have cholesterol with it, you can have so many other things. But when it's a mental illness, whoa, they're crazy. Something's wrong with them. Whenever I tell someone I have bipolar, they're like, does that mean you're gonna fight? Because of also what we see on TV. You hear bipolar and immediately you think we're violent. But we mind our own business. Personally, I'm not violent. Before treatment, maybe, but now, no. Now, like I said, I have sort of a hold on bipolar. So let's move on to the next one. I have an eating disorder. Before, I was so embarrassed to say this. I didn't know what it was, let alone I didn't know it was a mental illness. I'm sure many of you don't know it's a mental illness. I've struggled with this for a while, especially during the pandemic. You know, you're at home, you're eating, and all that. You're exercising, but you're not losing weight. So the math wasn't adding up to me. So I found a way to cope. And so I would binge. And my logic was, if I throw up what I just ate, I'm good. And that's how it started. So I would eat a lot, then I would make myself purge. The whole of last year, I went on like that. But this year, sometime around March, April, I had a very long episode. I would binge and purge every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And it started affecting me physically. It was damaging my stomach. It was affecting my throat. These days I'm always coughing, I'm always clearing my throat. And obviously people think it's COVID, but how can I start explaining that this and this is what happened? So I went to the doctor and I told him what was going on. And he was like, it's okay, this is just an eating disorder. And he started me on treatment. So I have bulimia nervosa. That's the binging and purging. Now the other day, I found out I also have anorexia. So I was like, this doesn't make sense. Again, the mathematics is not adding up. I didn't pass maths, but I know basics. And so I asked him, how can I have bulimia and anorexia at the same time? Because to me, anorexia was those people who don't eat whatsoever and they're very small. So it didn't make sense to me. But he told me it comes hand in hand. But I was like, okay, I accept this. How do we deal with it? And right now, I'm on treatment for it. I'm not gonna stand here and tell you that I haven't purged since. I just don't do it as often. I told the doctor, I think I'm addicted to purging. When I started thinking of that, I was like, wow, I sound wild. But he told me that makes sense. Because when you purge, the opiate receptors in your brain go off. Mind you, let's think back, I was addicted to opioids. So the high I would get from the opioids, I would get after throwing up. So I loved throwing up. Hey, I love throwing up. I know that's weird to say, but I love throwing up. But it's something I have to deal with on a daily basis, and I'm trying. I will never stand somewhere or tell someone that I've overcome. I'm overcoming. I'm recovering. I'm in recovery. Now, this has been a journey because, like I said, there was no one to look up to. And that's why I started talking about this. Because I wish I grew up seeing someone talking about eating disorders. I thought I was crazy. I thought I was just doing it on purpose, doing it to harm myself on purpose. Like, why can't I just stop? That's what everyone used to ask me. Just stop. Why aren't you stopping? It's never that hard. Why aren't you stopping? No one understood. And I get it. It's because no one speaks about it. But I will be that voice. And I have brought it up. The other day I was posting a video on Instagram about eating disorders. And I made the hashtag eating disorders Kenya. My post was the first one. I couldn't believe it. But then I was like, today I might be the first one, but next year we might be many. Because when I started talking about eating disorders, I can't tell you the number of people that reached out to me. Men, women, saying how much they can relate, thanking me for talking about it. And such things warm my heart. That's why I'm doing it. Because if I could help at least one person, that's all I could ask for. People will continue making comments. I remember there was a comment someone made, and they said that I was popping pills like those rappers. To me, that was funny. But if that popping pills of mine helped someone else, then I'm okay with that. Say all you want. So today, if I've moved you, I would like you to get this hashtag out there. But go and hashtag eating disorders Kenya. Let's start the conversation. And they all say it's okay not to be okay. And it's true. But we can't just leave it at words. Yeah, it's okay not to be okay. Then what? What are you going to do? We need to act. We need to speak up. We need to be there for one another. We need to be mindful of one another. We need to be kind to each other. and just take each day as it comes. Because that's the best you could do. I take each day as it comes. I will never stand anywhere and tell someone, oh, I'm great, I'm perfect, I've recovered. No, it's unrealistic, and I would never give someone that hope that I know is unrealistic. But what I will say is we can get through it. And mental health should be treated the same as physical health. Granted, it's not something you can see, but it's just as important. I'm going to leave with a quote that I had from a show that I shall not name. And it said, learn to let yourself rest, sleep, and love in this life instead of waiting for death to set you free. Thank you.